There was a time when I thought I would never make it. I was broke, lost, and doubting myself every step of the way. But something changed, and today I'm here to tell you no matter where you are, and your story is never over. This is how I went from losing everything I had to having some good success now, and if I could do it, so can you. A few years ago in 2022, I was very heavily into the crypto market, built nearly a six-figure crypto portfolio, but eventually the bear market happened. I took a loss. I went through some other bad situations and ended up losing everything. In fact, I went into a negative bank account for the first time in my life at the age of 25. So it was a very low moment for me. I pretty much, went through a mini depression. It happened. It's part of life. But I realized that it was a moment that I needed, because when you go through your biggest losses, that's what you need sometimes in life, because those are the times that you're going to make real changes. So went through a big loss, went from nearly six figures net worth to pretty much losing everything below zero. Credit score dropped crazy and just ended up essentially losing everything that I had in my thoughts, in my reality at that moment. Now, maybe you felt the same way at a point in your life where you were doing good, you've lost everything, and you might have felt really low. But I'm here to kind of tell you that no matter where you're at, everything is temporary. You could always change your situation down the road. It only takes 1 or 2 years of a real grind, real sacrifice, and you could be in a totally different position than you are currently. So what basically sparked the change for me is, after losing everything, I went back to doing Uber, eventually got into a sales gig with doing life insurance sales, and I started making some money. I started eventually hitting again 10K a month, 15K a month, even started doing 20K a month with life insurance as a sales rep. And I also realized that even though I've hired mentors and coaches in the past, I had to find new information. So eventually I went out, I went to different events, I started getting around the right people, I started hiring different coaches and mentors that can just help me basically excel my life rather than trying to figure everything out myself. I said, why would I not rather just pay someone that already has lifestyle or has a life that I want, so that way I can shortcut my whole learning curve, shortcut the process to getting from step A to step Z. The biggest mindset shift for me was just learning to change my mindset from having a victim mentality to realizing that everything happens for a reason. And if you can realize that kind of mindset, you'll just realize that life is more of a journey. It's not really a destination. The first action that I really took was, I realized when I went broke, I have to go get a job. There's nothing wrong with it. So I went back to doing Uber, and I started, making an extra 500 to 1,000 a week. It was consistent income that I know I could just work for. But eventually, through a buddy of mine, I got into the life insurance industry, got in as a life insurance agent. Within my first year in the business, I actually made about $100,000 in sales, which was pretty much commissions. I mean, I was doing pretty good, but I realized that it was draining a lot of my energy. I didn't really enjoy it a lot. During my life insurance journey, I had actually discovered about Airbnb arbitrage. It was just like most people, maybe you're watching this YouTube video right now. I came across a YouTube video from Grant Cardone, super known guy, and he was doing an interview with a guy named Brian Page, and he was talking about how simple this business is, where you don't have to own properties. When I thought about real estate back then, I used to think you need about a $50,000 to $100,000 to your name to actually do real estate. But I came across the video, and he talked about Airbnb rent arbitrage. This is basically where you don't have to own properties. You can rent properties from property owners, legally sublease the property, and then list it as a short-term rental, and learn how to make an additional $1,000 to $3,000 a month with every property that you get with this business model. So when I watched that video, it made a lot of sense to me. Eventually, I started educating myself. Before you get into any business, you want to educate yourself through self-education and paying for courses, coaching programs, mentors, because if you don't learn how to do something, you're never going to have success. So I started paying different coaches. I hired a few different people, and I just started learning more about the business. Short story, I got my first Airbnb property in the summer of 2022. I was sitting in Chicago. My first property was in Houston, Texas. So I did this pretty much all virtually, and I started making an extra few $1,000 a month with this property, not in profit, but in revenue. And I realized, hey, this business actually works. And eventually I just kept learning. As any business, you're going to learn the most when you're actually taking action. So as I was learning through the business, making some mistakes, learning new things, eventually I realized, okay, this business works. I can automate a lot of it. I can delegate a lot of it. And eventually I got into more properties. First year into my Airbnb journey, I acquired about 8 short-term rental properties. I eventually started hitting an extra 20, 25K a month in revenue, which allowed me to make an extra 5 to 10K a month in profit. Nothing crazy, but an extra 5 to 10K a month in profit with a business that you can automate 90, 95% of it is amazing. It's an amazing feeling to make an extra 5, 10,000 a month while not having to slave 40 hours a week for someone else, but ideally 5 to 10 hours a week into your own business. Short story, 2 years later now in 2025, I've scaled my Airbnb company to over 18 properties, doing about 50,000 plus in revenue every single month. And it's allowed me to get to a life where I live in my dream apartment in Florida. I've traveled to different different countries like Colombia, Dubai, Spain. I've been to a bunch of different places, and I've just been able to get around the right people and a lot of good network of connections. So if you're not where you want to be right now, in 2 to 3 years, you can change your situation. 2-3 years ago, I was dead broke. I lost everything I had. 3 years later, I can confidently say, you know, I've hit 6 figures in a month with businesses, and I could pretty much do what I want. At the end of the day, I think life is just about having choices. If you make enough money, you can have choices, especially if you're not having to trade 40, 50 hours a week working for someone else, and you can work your own business maybe 10, 15 hours a week. Now, the truth of the matter is that I didn't get to making 6 figures a month with my businesses by itself. In fact, there's a lot of sleepless nights. There's days that I was work 14 hours, 16 hours, 18 hours a day. I would go to sleep at 12. I would wake up at 5, 6 a.m. back to the grind. And there was a period of my life I had to do that. Now, today I could confidently say if I want to work 5 hours, 10 hours a week, I can do that. But when you're in a grind sacrifice stage, you have to realize that there's going to be a stage of your life where you're sacrificing a lot, and you have to put in 14 hours, 16 hours a day, maybe for the next 6 months, maybe for the next 12 months, maybe for the next 2 years, if your goal is to build your dream life. It also took a lot of learning curves. It took a lot of failure. I've lost money with properties. I've been through bad situations. I've got screwed over, and that just comes with the game of business. If you're not willing to risk failure, if you're not willing to take risks, you might as well just stick to a job at the end of the day. The first action that I really took, just like I think anyone else should, is get educated. If you got to hire coaches or mentors, that's the smartest way. The smartest people don't learn from their own mistakes. They learn from others' mistakes. So if you're trying to figure everything out by yourself, cool. But rather than something that you can learn in less than 3 months, it will take you a year if you learn by yourself. So I think the first thing you should do is hire a coach or mentor from someone that you feel like you could learn from. And then number 2 is just getting straight to action, right? Like, you're not going to learn stuff by always watching videos. You're going to learn stuff by actually taking action, maybe going through some failures. Those are going to be your biggest learning lessons, which is needed in business. The moment that I really started seeing my first progress was when I picked up the first property and I started making money while I'm sitting in a different state. I realized that the business was real. I realized that there's real money in the business, and it allowed me to just have a fade process where I knew I could scale this business to a high level where I've done it to now, where now my Airbnb does over $50,000 a month in revenue and essentially lets me live the life that I kind of desire to live. Just like any business, you just have to be willing to take the first step. My first step was starting the business. My first goal was just to have one property. Then eventually when I got my first property, my next goal was like, all right, how do I make $10,000 a month with this business? Once I did that, my next goal was how do I make $10,000 a week with this business? I was able to accomplish that within about a year, year and a half into my journey. And then now my next goal is how to make $25,000 per week with this business, which I'm still in the journey of, but I'll probably accomplish in the year of 2025. So you have to realize you have to set goals. My goal wasn't to make $10,000 a week when I first started, but short story, 2 years later now, every single week, my Airbnb does over $10,000 a week in revenue. Now, short story, I mean, I've been doing the Airbnb for 2 years, but something that I really like doing as well is like I've been coaching and mentoring people inside of this business for the past about year and a half. So since 2023, 2024, I've been teaching people on how to actually get started in this business, how to operate the right way, how to automate, systemize, delegate the business where they can make an extra 5K, 10K, 15,000 a month while not having to quit their job, while working maybe 5 to 10 hours a week in the business. If you're someone that desires to have impact, it's always going to come from like helping other people and something that you've already had success with. So first you have to learn how to get success. And then the second thing is if you can teach that success with the business maybe you've had, now you can go impact others. You can teach them, mentor them, coach them, whatever. So today, I mean, I've been blessed to be able to accomplish many things, built a business that's doing over 50K a month, built another coaching educational company that's doing, 5 figures plus a month, and really just been able to kind of live my life the way I like to live it, have freedom, have choices, be able to coach, teach other people with the same business that allowed me to have financial freedom. So it's been super good, but I always think life is a journey. It's not a destination. So for my goal is how do I get to the next level? How do I, instead of hitting 50K a month with my Airbnb business, how do I make 100K a month? Instead of me teaching over 50 people how to get into Airbnb, how do I teach 100 or 200 people on how to get into the Airbnb business the right way? You should always have goals that always help you hit the next level because you're either dying or you're growing. So I never want to be dying. I always want to be growing. And that's just by having goals in place that you can always hit next steps in your business, in your company, in your personal life. It never matters where you're at. It just only matters where you're going. So if you're struggling right now, it's temporary. Just make sure you follow a good blueprint. Make sure that you're getting around the right people. Make sure you're always changing your mindset to have a successful mindset. And then just back everything up with work ethic. You could be in the worst situation right now, and 2 years from now, you could be in the best situation, live your dream life, have choices, travel, give back to other people that you want to give back to. Essentially, be living the life that you desire. The best way to make sure that you're doing everything correctly correctly is to make sure that you start reading the right books, maybe start listening to the right podcasts, maybe listen to successful individuals, get around events, get around entrepreneurs that are already having success, maybe networking events that you maybe sometimes have to invest into. If you get around the right people, it's way easier to have success than trying to figure everything out by yourself. Also, having a good routine in place, maybe waking up at 7 a.m., hitting the gym, having a deep work schedule, just making sure that you're blocking out every single day. There's a quote that says, if you show me your calendar and you show me the friends that you have, you'll be able to determine where someone's a year, 2 years, 5 years from now. So just make sure you have a schedule that's always busy, doing the right stuff, and make sure that you get around the right people. And as long as you do these two things correctly and you're in the right vehicle, you're operating correctly, you're having a good mindset towards everything, you'll be surprised on how far you can go in the next 12, 24 months. Drop a comment below if you've ever faced any setbacks and what you're doing to push forward from it. So this is basically my story on how I went from losing everything to now operating multiple businesses that are making me nearly 6 figures a month between everything that I have going on. Now, if you're someone that's struggling, you're maybe looking for a coach or someone that can actually help you, make sure to shoot me a follow, number one. And number two, drop a comment below, maybe something that you're struggling with and what you're doing to push forward. And if you're someone that's maybe looking for the right guidance, maybe you want to get into the Airbnb business, it's something I've already taught dozens of people. So if it's something that you want to learn how to do, just make sure that you click the link in the description, fill out the form, watch my free training video, and book a call with me and my team to see if this is something that would be a good fit for us to work together. If that sounds like something you want to do, make sure that you click the link in the description, show me a follow, leave a like, comment on the page, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.